The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
I don't know where to begin with the New York Rangers because usually here we start with the main headline, we start with the issue, we start with the problem, and then we go out from there. But with the New York Rangers, everything is a problem, so there's no real good place to start. It's not like it's just the players giving no effort on the ice and making a million mistakes. It's not like it's just the coach who needs to be fired. It's not like it's just the GM who needs to go. It's all of the above, all at once. Everything is terrible with the Rangers, and night after night after night, they seem to find a way to dig a hole and create a new rock bottom for this franchise, this team, this organization, this era right now. Last night, the New York Rangers lose 5-1 to the Los Angeles Kings. They look awful. They give no effort. Everything is bad. Today, Sunday afternoon, they manage to, on a back-to-back, to not show up when all you got to do is show up, and they lose 3-2 to the St. Louis Blues. And going into the game, Peter Laviolette decides, I'm going to get out my favorite blender. I'm going to throw everybody in there. I'm going to shake up all the lines. What he did is he bumped down Chris Kreider to the fourth line. And then he had Mika Zibanejad playing third line center. Shook up all the lines. It was Cooley, Hedl, Lafreniere on the first line. Brodzinski, Trocheck, Smith on the second there. Berard, Zibanejad, VC on the third. Edstrom, Carrick, and Kreider there on the fourth. And what you can notice out of that is that the guy he decided to scratch was Capo Caco, who I wouldn't say is the most responsible for this terrible stretch of hockey by the New York Rangers. So we get that really curious decision. And also, you can notice in there, Panarin day-to-day with an injury. So that's another thing that the Rangers got to deal with. And so all of that mess, and Peter Laviolette's like, this will get the guys going. This is what needs to be done. Scratching Capo, who's not responsible for this mess here. And if you want to know how much losing has been done by the Rangers of late, since November 20th, they are last in the NHL. No team has put up less points than the New York Rangers since November 20th. And November 19th is actually a fun demarcation point in the season for the New York Rangers because they had a great win against the Vancouver Canucks. They beat them 4-3. Great win against Vancouver. Okay, that's a good challenge, a good test, and you pulled it out. And then since that point, they've gone 3-10 and are in last. Awful. Could not be worse, and continually night after night, you get efforts like you had today, this afternoon in St. Louis. So I mentioned the lines, weird decision-making by Laviolette there, and then I just wanted to highlight one goal in particular from the game, which is kind of the whole season wrapped up in one goal. It's a microcosm of the whole season in one goal, because Lindgren here, on the second goal of the game, Jordan Kyrou's goal to put the St. Louis Blues up 2-0, is a disaster in every sense of the word, because Ryan Lindgren last night was the one who spoke up and said, we're getting outworked, outcompeted, losing 50-50 battles. That can't happen. That's the quote. That is the quote from Lindgren last night. It's getting outworked, outcompete, losing 50-50 battles. That can't happen. And on the ice this afternoon in a 1-0 game is completely in reach, even though you allow a late Pavel Buchnevich goal, revenge game for Buchnevich, former Ranger, gets a late goal in the first period where the Rangers could have easily cleared the puck and they don't. Buchnevich scores on that, and you get to the second period, 6 minutes in. What happens? Ryan Lindgren, a puck goes out to center ice. It's Lindgren, it's Kyrou in a foot battle for the puck. And Ryan Lindgren loses it on pure effort to Jordan Kyrou, who takes the puck, goes all the way to the end on a break because he beat Ryan Lindgren to the puck. He gets in behind him, and that was the last man back. Scores, beats quick. That's a 2-0 lead for the Blues, and It's the Blues went up 3-0, and then the Rangers got too late and they couldn't make anything of it. But like that's the only goal I want to highlight from the game there. The rest of it's just same old same, them not showing up. But that quote after Saturday, and then that effort where you talk about winning the 50-50 battles and then you lose the 50-50 battle that leads to a goal is a disaster. And that's what it feels like everything is for the Rangers this season. So let's go back to where this all started, and we'll go all the way back to the Eastern Conference Finals last season, where the New York Rangers lose to the Florida Panthers. They're 2 games away from making the Stanley Cup final, and it looks like they're so close. It looks like they just need some winger help and some help on D, and that's it. Just like 1-2 pieces, and they're a Stanley Cup final team. And Chris Drury, the general manager, goes out and he says, I'm going to do a very public mess with Jacob Trouba to try and make this team better. And it's awful for this organization, and it was clearly awful for the locker room of this team. It's a mess all off season. They don't end up trading Jacob Trouba because he doesn't waive his no move clause, and it bleeds into the season, and we all know what happened from there. Drury lost this locker room. The locker room clearly doesn't like the general manager, and Jacob Trouba said as much when he was eventually threatened publicly with waivers and then moved to the Ducks. He said that it was very difficult to be a captain of this team when I was being shopped all summer long and all regular season long. And then so Drury does that in the midst of trading Jacob Trouba. He also says that he sends his memo out to all 31 other GMs, and he says, Kreider's also on the block. And it seems like the players hate this man and they don't want to play for Chris Drury. The way this seemingly good collection of players has been free falling makes me never want him to be a GM anywhere ever. But we also need to talk about the players, because Drury can't also give these guys an out. Peter Laviolette, in any other normal circumstance, probably isn't the head coach on Monday. Like, we're talking about, he's fired. This is a game that gets you fired, blah, blah, blah. We'll get the new coach bump, bring somebody in there, new coach. But this group can't be rewarded with the benefit of firing the head coach. They already did that. They've already done that. David Quinn and Gerard Gallant were the guys. With the players that have been here forever, they've been through quite a few coaches. And now at this point, you just fired Gerard Gallant a season and a half ago. You brought in Peter Laviolette, President's Trophy, Eastern Conference Finals. It's not on the coach here, even though I think Laviolette is not doing the correct stuff with the lineup in terms of you're scratching the wrong person in Kakko, and you need to be a better motivator. If you're unable to motivate your guys, that's on you. And Peter Laviolette has done a lot of complaining about the guys not being motivated, and we're like, that's your job, Peter. You need to motivate them. But we also can't reward these players for simply giving up and not trying. It's a catch-22, and that's where we started with this, where every single level is bad, and it's all just smashing at the door, and nothing can get through because it's all bad. So where do you go from here? Trading the players doesn't help, because we're going to see good players moved at their lowest possible value, but moving pieces is the only thing that the GM can do, even though the GM has been moving pieces and that hasn't been working. All 3 levels of this organization are a disaster. And that's kind of where we're at with the New York Rangers. It's everybody needs to go, but everybody needs to stay, because letting anybody else go lets the other guys who are awful off the hook. Everything is bad, and I don't know how to move forward besides shuffle deck chairs. So I don't think Peter Laviolette's going to get fired. I do think the guy at the top of the food chain is going to just start moving things at the bottom of the food chain. Kreider's probably very gone at this point. Lindgren's out the door halfway already. There's going to be a lot of changes coming in New York in the next month. Kakko might be gone because the head coach doesn't like Kakko, and the head coach might get rid of Kakko because he's going to influence the general manager, because they both don't like him, which is ridiculous because there's a good young player. And the New York Rangers seem to just keep getting lower and lower and lower as the season goes on, and I don't know where they go from here. Right now, they are out of a playoff spot. They just got passed by the Senators and the Flyers. The Rangers are at 31 points. Those teams are at 32 this season. They sit outside the playoffs mid-December, and that is not something I expected at this point in the season at all. A lot of changes are going to come in New York. Whether they're good, I don't know. We will wait and see how it all plays out. That is it for me tonight. Thank you for being here. You could have been anywhere in the world that we chose to be listening or watching, and I appreciate you for that. Don't forget to hit subscribe on the Jesse Blake Sports Report YouTube channel. Good night from Toronto.
And that is how it's done.
The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
Jesse Blake, the guy that likes to hear his name twice in one sentence. Sure, I know him. No, he doesn't have an ego at all.